At exactly 6:17 a.m., the cannon fired, or at least it should have. 7,500 American Marines were packed tightly behind the ridge, waiting for the signal that would open the invasion. They trusted that cannon with their lives, but something was wrong. Inside the barrel of that massive coastal gun, already loaded, already primed, a single Marine made a decision no training manual had ever prepared him for. He didn't run. He didn't freeze. He jumped forward and dove straight into the firing cannon barrel, not knowing if he would live another second. If he failed, the blast would erase him instantly and kill 7,500 men moments later. This is the true story of the Marine who turned himself into a human safety switch on his very first day of combat. The landing they called a suicide, 045-530. The beach had no name. Maps labeled it with a number, nothing more. But the Marines landing there would remember it forever as the funnel. Steep cliffs boxed the sand from both sides. German concrete bunkers were dug so deep into the rock that bombs barely scratched them. Every approach route overlapped with machine gun fire. This wasn't just a beach. It was a trap. Command estimated 60% casualties in the first hour alone. And the man who would soon make history? Private First Class Danny Harker. Age 19. Experience, 0 combat hours. Unit 2nd Marine Assault Battalion. Danny had joined the Marines just 8 months earlier. Skinny, quiet. The kind of kid instructors overlooked until they realized he never missed a target. This was supposed to be his first firefight. No one expected him to become a legend. The cannon that controlled the beach, 5:30-11. High above the sand, hidden inside reinforced stone, sat cannon K-17, a naval-grade artillery gun stolen by German engineers and repurposed for coastal defense. One shell from K-17 could wipe out an entire landing wave. Intelligence believed the gun was disabled. They were wrong. As the first Marine boats hit the water, K-17 rotated. Slow, precise, merciless, its barrel angled directly toward the beach funnel, toward thousands of Marines, still trapped on open sand. One shot would turn the shoreline into a graveyard. The jam that saved a few seconds, 11 and a 16:30. As the gun crew rushed to fire, something jammed. A shell seated improperly. A mechanical fault. No one knew. But that malfunction bought exactly 38 seconds. Inside the captured bunker, chaos erupted. And that's when Danny Harker arrived. His unit had breached through a rear ventilation shaft, never meant for entry, crawling single file under fire. Danny was last. As he emerged, he saw the gun. He saw the Marines below. And he saw the German crew screaming, trying to clear the jam. Danny didn't think. He ran. The moment no one would believe, 16:30-22. Witnesses later said Danny moved before anyone shouted, before officers reacted, before orders were given. He sprinted toward the cannon as the breech slammed open. The shell slid halfway free. If it dropped, the gun would fire. Danny leapt. Not beside the gun, not onto it, into it. He wedged his entire upper body into the barrel, wrapping his arms around the shell, pressing himself forward with everything he had. German soldiers froze. For half a second, no one fired. Then chaos exploded. Inside the barrel, 22 on 28:30. Danny later said the barrel was hot enough to blister skin instantly. His ears rang. He couldn't see. All he knew was this. If he let go, 7,500 men would die. Bullets struck the metal around him. A rifle round tore through his shoulder. Still he held. The gun crew panicked. The cannon couldn't fire. A human body blocked the chamber. They tried to pull him out. Danny locked his legs and screamed. The counterattack, 28:30-35 times. That scream did something unexpected. American Marines heard it. They surged forward. Grenades flooded the bunker. Within minutes, K-17 was captured intact. The beach went silent. For the first time since landing, no shells fell. Medical teams pulled Danny from the barrel. He was unconscious, burned, bleeding, alive. The number no one expected, 35 on 40:30. After the battle, casualty reports came in. Analysts calculated the firing arc of K-17, the timing, the shell size. One shot would have landed directly in the densest concentration of Marines. Estimated casualties, 7,500 men, saved by a Marine who had been in combat less than 60 minutes. Chapter 8, What He Said After, 40:30-45. When asked why he did it, Danny shrugged. I was already running. Stopping didn't feel like an option. He never called himself a hero. The Marines did. The silence that shouldn't have existed. For 3 full seconds after Danny wedged himself into the barrel, there was silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that happens when everyone, trained soldiers included, realizes something has gone horribly wrong. The German gun captain screamed an order, but no one moved. Because the cannon, the most powerful weapon on the cliff, was now useless. A 19-year-old Marine had turned it into dead metal. "You'll kill us all!" 52, so 57 thirda. A German soldier rushed forward, trying to yank Danny free. Danny tightened his grip. Another soldier raised a pistol. The gun captain shouted, "If we fire, the barrel will explode." They knew it. Everyone did. If they fired now, the cannon wouldn't just kill Danny. It would detonate the entire breach, collapsing the bunker and killing everyone inside. Danny had done the impossible. He made the enemy afraid of their own weapon. Bullets for his willpower, 57-31-03. They fired anyway. Not the cannon. Their rifles. Rounds slammed into the barrel. Sparks filled the chamber. One bullet punched through Danny's upper arm. Another grazed his ribs. His grip weakened, just for a moment. Down on the beach, Marines saw the cannon still unmoving. They realized something was wrong, and that meant hope. The Marines who ran toward the scream. Someone yelled from below. "The gun's jammed!" That was all it took. Platoons that had been pinned for nearly an hour charged uphill. Not because it was safe, but because for the first time, it was possible. Every second, Danny held on. Another dozen Marines moved closer. Another life escaped the funnel. When the barrel started to move, inside the bunker, the gun captain made a desperate choice. If they couldn't fire, they would rotate the cannon and crush Danny inside it. The gears groaned. The barrel shifted. Danny felt the pressure increase, ribs grinding against steel. He screamed again, and that scream echoed down the cliff. Grenades in the dark, 115-30-21, that scream guided them. American Marines breached the side entrance. Grenades rolled across concrete. The explosion was deafening. Smoke filled the bunker. The gun crew scattered. Hands grabbed Danny's boots. Pulled hard. The moment he let go, BU-21, D-125 Danny didn't release the shell. He collapsed. His body went limp. The Marines dragged him free just as flames erupted near the breach. The cannon never fired, not once. The beach that lived, 125 yar 130 ma. By noon the beach was secured. Casualties were still heavy. But compared to projections, it was a miracle. Officers stared at the silent cannon and understood what had happened. The math that made men go quiet. 136 mirror. Later that night, engineers ran the numbers. Shell yield, blast radius, marine density on the sand, one firing sequence, 1 minute, 7,500 dead or wounded, all prevented by 38 seconds of malfunction, and one impossible decision. When he woke up, 136-142 Danny woke up in a field hospital, bandaged, burned, barely able to speak. A colonel stood at his bedside. He saluted. Danny tried to sit up. The colonel stopped him. "Son, do you have any idea what you did today?" Danny shook his head. "You saved the landing, 142 Xaka 147-1. The colonel continued. "You didn't just save a unit. You didn't save a battalion. You saved the entire landing force." Danny closed his eyes and whispered, Did we take the beach?" "Yes," the colonel said. "Because of you." 2 days after the beach was secured, a sealed envelope arrived at division headquarters. No return address. No explanation. Just one red stamp. Classified. Eyes only. Inside was a single-page order. No names. No citations. Just a directive. All operational details involving Coastal Gun, K-17, are to remain restricted indefinitely. The reason? That cannon wasn't just dangerous. It was embarrassing. Enemy engineers had stolen Allied technology and nearly used it to massacre an entire landing force. The command feared headlines, so they buried the story. And with it, Danny Harker, the medal that never came, 153-2 Ocker. Danny's commanding officer submitted him for the Medal of Honor. The paperwork was flawless. Eyewitnesses, medical reports, engineering assessments. Weeks passed, then months. The recommendation came back stamped. Denied. Insufficient public record. No ceremony, no parade, just silence. Danny never asked why, but others did. "Don't talk about the cannon," Dr. Purta, Tier. Before Danny was released from the hospital, 2 men visited his bed. No insignia, no rank displayed. One of them spoke quietly. What you did saved lives. But this operation isn't over. Then came the warning. You will not discuss the cannon. You will not discuss the bunker. And you will not discuss what you saw. Danny nodded. Not because he was scared, but because he was exhausted. Back to war. Like nothing happened to a 7 to 215 mile. 3 weeks later, Danny returned to active duty. No announcement. No applause. Just another Marine in the ranks. New replacements never knew. Veterans didn't speak. And Danny? He fought through the rest of the campaign. Wounded once more. And never mentioned the barrel again. In his pack, Danny carried a folded letter addressed to his mother. He wrote it the night after the landing. Mom, something happened today. I don't know how to explain it. I just knew I had to do it. He never mailed it, because he wasn't sure he was allowed to exist. The war ends. The silence continues. 2:22, we're 2:30, grew. When the war ended, Danny went home quietly. No medals on his chest. No stories at the dinner table. He became a mechanic. Married. Had children. And every 4th of July, when fireworks exploded, he flinched. The file that shouldn't have survived. 30 years later, a junior archivist found something odd. A partial combat report. No names, just coordinates. And a note. Firing prevented by physical obstruction, American Marine. The archivist cross-referenced hospital logs, then unit rosters. One name appeared. Daniel Harker. Danny was 52 when the phone rang. A historian was on the line. Mr. Harker. Do you remember a coastal gun called K-17? Danny was silent. Then he said, I was wondering when someone would ask. The Pentagon resisted. Files were missing. Witnesses were dead. But math doesn't forget. Neither does steel. Engineers confirmed it. A human body had stopped the gun. A reporter finally asked Danny, Weren't you afraid? Danny paused, then said, Of course. But the beach was worse. When the Pentagon finally agreed to recognize what happened at Cannon K-17, they expected gratitude. What they got instead was resistance. Danny Harker read the official letter twice, then folded it, and said something no one expected. I don't want the ceremony. The officer across the table thought he misheard. This wasn't just any medal. It was the Medal of Honor. But Danny's voice didn't change. If you give it to me, give it to all of them who didn't come back. Danny explained quietly. He named Marines who died on that beach. Men who never made it past the sand. Men who didn't get 38 extra seconds. They ran when the gun went quiet, he said. They trusted something had changed. He didn't want applause. He wanted memory. The argument inside the Pentagon. Behind closed doors, officials argued. Some feared reopening old wounds. Others feared setting a precedent. But one general ended the debate with a single sentence. If this doesn't deserve honor, then nothing we teach our recruits matters. The ceremony was approved. On one condition, Danny would speak. The day the room stood still. The hall was packed. Rows of uniforms, families of the fallen, young Marines standing at attention. Danny walked slowly to the podium. No dramatic music, no hero's stride. Just a man who had carried silence for decades. The speech that broke the room. Danny didn't read from notes. He looked at the audience and said, I didn't jump into that cannon because I was brave. I jumped because I was already running, and stopping felt worse. You could hear breathing, nothing else. Then he added, If you're looking for a hero, look at the men who charged uphill when the gun went quiet. I just bought them a moment. Somewhere in the audience, someone sobbed, then another. For the first time in public history, the report was read aloud. Projected casualties without intervention. 6,500 Marines saved. The room stood, not for Danny, for the number. As the medal was placed around his neck, Danny whispered something only the general heard. Make sure they remember the beach. The general nodded. Danny didn't display the medal, didn't frame it, didn't show it to his kids. He kept it in a plain wooden box, next to a folded, unsent letter. Cliffhanger hook, but the story still wasn't finished. Because years later at a Marine training base, an instructor told a version of this story, with one crucial detail missing, and when Danny heard about it, he did something that stunned an entire generation of Marines. And that's the part most people miss. Heroes don't always charge forward with a plan. Sometimes they're already running, and stopping feels worse than dying. Daniel Harker never asked to be remembered. He never asked for a medal. He never asked for a story. But because of one impossible decision, 7,500 men lived to go home. So the next time someone tells you, one person can't change the outcome, remember the Marine, who turned his own body into a safety switch and stopped a cannon with nothing but instinct, courage, and 38 seconds of fate. History almost erased him. You won't.